Hare Bihari Radhe. Natha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Mai Subhadra. Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Balagopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Ram Sankirtan Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna. So, welcome to this discussion of this most wonderful and glorious Chaitanya Caritamrita. As the weather is getting nicer, we have an opportunity to indulge even deeper into the ecstatic pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and envision the very beautiful discussion that we're going to hear between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Rupa Goswami today. And we can imagine what a beautiful setting that must have been. Not beautifully from our eyes, but beautifully from our ears, to be part of hearing such an amazing conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Rupa Goswami. And we would consider ourselves to be very, very fortunate to have been part of that conversation, to have been able to just hear that and by the mercy of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, we actually will be a part of that conversation by hearing how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Srila Rupa Goswami. So we'll have the great fortune to be able to participate in this very powerful conversation that's taking place. So last time we talked about Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, and we talked about their illustrious position in government and how they did their duties so wonderfully that they became very wealthy, very powerful, very desired, and the Nawab was very dependent, particularly in Sanatana Goswami's service. Yet they were fully detached and fully attached to Krishna, showing us the perfection of professional life. Yes, one should do their professional duties very sincerely and enthusiastically and to the best of their ability. And if great means and facilities come, great, use it in the service of Krishna. But one should be attached to their success in devotional service. And we're going to see today very clearly why his devotional service is the rarest of rare gifts. Sometimes when we have something presented to us, we fail to appreciate the great fortune that we have of obtaining that gift. And often what happens, the more we become familiar with something, the less we appreciate its value. And that is just human nature. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to explain to us the extraordinary, rare fortune one has to come in contact with the philosophy of devotional service. How extraordinarily rare it is. And then he's going to explain, furthermore, how rare it is to have achieved the mercy of Guru Krishna Prasada, to have the mercy of Guru and Krishna, to obtain the seed of devotional service, this Bhakti Lata Beach. And it is so rare and so fortunate that when we hear these verses, hopefully we can appreciate the fortune. Because when we appreciate the value of something, we then protect it. We utilize it. We appreciate it. Right? When we don't appreciate the value, that's why we tell our children, appreciate what you've been given. Right? When we were younger, our parents told us that. But sometimes in our immature state, we don't appreciate the great fortune. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before instructing Rupa Goswami, is going to help us come to a great appreciation for the gift we have. It is so rare, and we're so fortunate. So, just like this very fortunate the gift I have of all of your association as we discuss this Chaitanya Caritamrita. So, we'll read verse 17. And then the purport, and then continue discussing. Shri Rupa Hridaya Prabhu Shakti Sancharila Sarva Tattva Nirupane Pravina Karila. By entering the heart of Rupa Goswami, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to ascertain properly the conclusions of all truths. He made him an experienced devotee whose decision correctly agreed with the verdicts of the disciplic succession. Thus, Rupa Goswami was personally empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. The principles of devotional service are only apparently under the jurisdiction of material activity. To be rightly guided, one must be personally guided by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This was the case with Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and the other acharyas. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandra Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Om Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karasindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpade Krishna Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Paramami Hari Priye Kalpatarubhyascha Vasindubhyaivacha Patitana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Buddhaya Devakti Vedanta Swami Tinamne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavati Pashata Deshatari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Okay, so let's now begin. So, just for some context, we are again here in the chapter entitled Lord Instructs Srila Rupa Goswami. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after leaving Vrindavan, has reached Prayag, and he has had various activities and pastimes. Like in Vrindavan, there were great crowds being assembled in various places, and so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left and went to a nearby ghat, and there he began to discuss and instruct Srila Rupa Goswami. And so now we're getting a little bit of an introduction to Rupa Goswami. As I mentioned to you last time, he is the foremost of our 6 Goswamis, and our Guru Parampara is coming in the line of Srila Rupa Goswami. So we are considered followers of Rupa Goswami. We are Rupanugas. Anuga means to follow, and we are following Rupa Goswami. And in one of the purports we'll read today, we'll see Srila Prabhupada tells us how to be a follower of Rupa Goswami. So we're going to read a number of statements from purports today. Srila Prabhupada makes some powerful statements here, and I can say that these verses, particularly towards the end of this section and heading into the next section, are some of the most potent and important verses, and the purports are just extraordinary. So my only hope today is that in discussing this, we'll all be inspired to go back and read these purports a couple of times and really try, because we won't be able to discuss each and every purport in detail because there's so many to cover. But the speed in which we are going is no indication of its great importance. Actually, we should spend 1 or 2 sessions on each of these purports because they're so deep and powerful. But in the context of what we are doing, we're giving an overview, and so we'll do such. But these are very, very important, and specifically some verses we'll discuss towards the end of today's discussion. So we'll try to keep it relatively brief and prompt so we don't go too late. We'll wrap up right at 8 o'clock, and hopefully plenty of time for discussion. Although I can only see one video, I assume the rest of you are on as well, and so hopefully we'll have good discussion and good conversation. Okay, so here now, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami is explaining that how we acquire knowledge. It is by entering the heart of Rupa Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to ascertain properly the conclusions of all truths. So this knowledge must come from Guru Parampara and ultimately from Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada says that one must be personally guided by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in order to really understand the principles of devotional service. And this is why accepting knowledge in Guru Parampara is so important. Because when we take knowledge in Guru Parampara, it is coming directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Rupa Goswami heard these pastimes, this instruction, we also, by hearing from the mouths of Guru Parampara, obtain the same benefit. So very, very important here. And in 119, we see that in the course of time, the transcendental news of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan was almost lost. To enunciate explicitly those transcendental pastimes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami with the nectar of his mercy to carry out this work in Vrindavan. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were personally benedicted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to perform these pastimes. And they had 4 principal activities in Vrindavan. One was to uncover all of the sweet pastime places of Krishna. By this time, they were mostly lost. As we know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had discovered Radhakund and Shamkund. If Radhakund and Shamkund were lost, you can imagine the condition of all the other holy places. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were, 1, asked to uncover the holy places. 2, they were in charge of installing various deities and establishing several temples that are still very, very prominent in Vrindavan today and very elaborately worshipped. But they were there to establish very important temples and deities. 3, they were there instructed to preach this devotional service. So what they're going to hear from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami here, Sanatana Goswami in the coming couple of chapters, all of that they were to take to Vrindavan and preach. But not only preach in Vani, in words, but to preach in Vani through books. So the 4th activity was for them to write in books. And we'll see that in the coming verse. So now in verse 121, we see the extraordinary position of Rupa Goswami. And in this verse it says, "Indeed, Srila Rupa Goswami, whose dear friend was Sarugamador, was the exact replica of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was very, very dear to the Lord. Being the embodiment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, Rupa Goswami was naturally very beautiful. He very carefully followed the principles enunciated by the Lord, and he was a competent person to explain properly the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expanded his mercy to Srila Rupa Goswami just so he could render service by writing transcendental literatures." So here we get a very comprehensive understanding of Rupa Goswami. First, he is the embodiment of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's love. And thus, he has a very beautiful form. So Rupa Goswami carries with him the love Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is demonstrating in his love for Krishna. So very, very clear. Very, very nice. And we'll see in Antya Lila, a very beautiful chapter in which Rupa Goswami brings some of his writings to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's asking Rupa Goswami to recite some of these writings. And it is an exquisite exchange between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami and all the other associates. This meeting takes place in Jagannath Puri, and it is coming in Antya Lila. It is one of the sweet, sweet, sweet chapters. I think I say that in every chapter because they're all sweet, but this is especially sweet. Now we see, secondly, in this verse, he very carefully followed the principles enunciated by the Lord. This is one of the characteristics we always see in the great, great devotees. And this glorification of Rupa Goswami, one of his glories is he carefully followed the principles. He did not go on his own mental speculation. This mood of following is an important part of rendering pure devotional service. We see Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam, which means to be constantly engaged in following in the footsteps of the prior acharyas. So one of great Rupa Goswami's qualifications is he was strictly following. And finally, he was empowered so that he could write transcendental literatures. So when we read Rupa Goswami's books, we know the inspiration to write those books was coming directly from the Supreme Lord himself. And so this is the very important understanding of how positioned Rupa Goswami was to present this literature. The embodiment of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's love, strictly following, and empowered specifically so he could render the service of writing these transcendental literatures. So now in verse 132, the explanation of this writing of literatures is given by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as we now know. And whenever devotees would see them, and then they would go back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they would report on the various glories of Rupa Goswami. Of course, knowing that if someone is very dear to somebody, I am missing somebody very much. If somebody brings me news of that person, it makes me very happy. So like that, when devotees would see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they would bring news of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, knowing it would please him very, very much. So here in this verse, when the personal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear of the activities of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they would say, "What is wonderful for a person who has been granted the Lord's mercy." So these are some of the other devotees who are hearing these great glories. So in the prior verses we see they were very sincere in their service. Prabhupada writes in the first line of the purport, they had no fixed residence. They would, now remember what their position was, boatloads of gold coins. High service in the governor, prime minister and finance minister were their roles. And when they went to Vrindavan, how they lived? Each night they would sleep under a different tree. They were so detached that they felt if they slept under the same tree, some attachment might come to that tree. Oh, this is now my home. And so to remain so detached, not only were they sleeping out in the open, under a tree, they would sleep under a different tree each night. So detached they were. They had nothing, a water pot, a torn quilt, and what they used for their pillows, our acharyas explained, their arm. That was it. And how much they rested and they slept? It says here that they were virtually engaged 24 hours a day. Rupa and Sanatana Goswami would maximum sleep 1.5 hours a day. And if they were so enthusiastic and deep in their service, they would even skip that much. Minimize their sleep. Why? When they were sleeping, it was that much less opportunity to render service. Now, of course, we cannot imitate that activity because they were empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But we can follow the principle. Yes, take enough sleep that's needed to maintain the body. But excess sleep is simply but a waste of time. A missed opportunity to glorify the Supreme Lord. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were very, very detached, very, very humble and austere. They would beg for their foodstuffs every day and just take whatever came in that simple day. So like this, they lived in a very austere way. The torn quilt specifically, we'll see in the next chapter how Sanatana Goswami received a very valuable quilt from his uncle, and then ultimately he traded that quilt, seeing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was displeased seeing him wearing a very nice high-cost quilt. So even torn quilts are referenced here. We'll see that more coming up. So in this verse now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that they stayed beneath a tree for only one day and wrote huge volumes of transcendental literatures. So this writing was one of their principal activities they would do. And so then Srila Prabhupada writes, it is certainly not good to write literature for money or reputation, but to write books and publish them for the enlightenment of the general populace is real service to the Lord. That was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's opinion, and he specifically told his disciples to write books He actually preferred to write books rather than to establish temples. And then I'll go skipping a couple of lines. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, distributing literature is like playing on a great mridanga. Consequently, we always request members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to publish as many books as possible and distribute them widely throughout the world. By thus following the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami, one can become a Rupa Nuga devotee. So here Srila Prabhupada is establishing that in Rupa Goswami, it started writing these books at the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, asked Srila Prabhupada, when you get money, you print books. You print books. Because the books were a mridanga that could be heard not around the block, but across oceans. And we are the extraordinary beneficiary of Srila Prabhupada's endeavors. He presented over 70 volumes of various scriptures, including this Chaitanya Caritamrita, so that we would have the opportunity to acquire this knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada is continuing in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. And our opportunity to continue in the footsteps and become a Rupa Nuga is to take Srila Prabhupada's books and distribute them far and wide. To share this knowledge with anyone and everyone. This is a very important part of our movement, and it is not coming from just an opinion of Srila Prabhupada. This is coming from Guru Parampara. Rupa Goswami established it, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, all put great emphasis on this book distribution. So this is one of the, as Prabhupada says, it is the most pleasing activity to him, to read and distribute his books. Okay. So now, in verse 134, I'll ask a question if anyone wants to come up here. What is the one quality we see repeatedly from the very intimate and dear devotees in Chaitanya Caritamrita? What is one quality we see over and over and over again that attracts the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Humility. Yes, humility. We can all say it in unison. Humility, right? So now hear this verse, 134. Although I'm the lowest of men and have no knowledge, the inspiration to write transcendental literatures about devotional service has been mercifully bestowed upon me. Therefore, I'm offering my obeisances at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's given me the chance to write these books. Now, this humility we see. He says, I am the lowest of men. Now, this verse was actually written after this conversation, not before. This verse appears in the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in which Rupa Goswami is saying, I am the lowest of men and have no knowledge. Now, he has received 10 consecutive days of direct instruction and empowerment from the Supreme Lord himself. Yet, he doesn't consider, oh, now I've arrived. Now my heart is pure. Now I have acquired this knowledge. He says, I have no knowledge. And then he goes on to say, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given me the chance to write these books. There's no one more qualified than Rupa Goswami, being directly empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But you can see, this is after he has been blessed. And yet, he remains so humble. And this is very, very instructive. The sincerity they follow, 22 and a half hours a day, okay, if not 22 and a half, whatever number we can do, and this humility. These are the two powerful combinations. You combine sincerity and humility, and rapid progress will be had in devotional service. Now, 135. Srila Prabhupada is speaking about this empowerment and the mood of the empowered devotee. In 135, For 10 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Prayag and instructed Rupa Goswami, empowering him with the necessary potency. This verse and purport itself is worthy of at least several discussions. But we'll just touch on a couple of comments. So in the first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says, unless one is specifically empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he cannot spread Krishna consciousness movement. An empowered devotee, now this is, see the mood of the empowered devotee. An empowered devotee sees and feels himself to be the lowest of men, for he knows whatever he does is due to the inspiration given by the Lord in the heart. So the mood of the devotee is, yes, they may do amazing things, transform the world as Srila Prabhupada did. But in their mind, it is simply an inspiration from Krishna. Prabhupada says, cannot spread without being blessed. And we can imagine that Srila Prabhupada is writing this at a time as ISKCON is starting to take hold, starting to grow, really starting to gain traction, and centers are opening up internationally, books are starting to be distributed in high volumes. And Srila Prabhupada is writing this at this point and saying, lowest of men, he knows whatever is there is due to the inspiration given by the Lord. So the devotee knows where the empowerment comes from. It only comes from Krishna. Alone, no potency. Connected to Krishna, extraordinary potency. Now the last paragraph, and specifically the first sentence, is extraordinarily important. It says, to keep oneself free from material contamination and attain the Lord's favor, one must be sincerely eager to render service to the Lord. This is the only qualification necessary. So to receive the mercy of the Lord, how did Rupa Goswami obtain the mercy, the favor of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? By his humility and sincerity. That is the qualification. Doesn't matter what your education background is, what your race is, what your gender is, what your wealth is, it doesn't matter. What matters? The sincerity to render service. Because when Krishna sees my devotee is sincere to render service, then let me empower him to make it happen. What is the point of giving empowerment to someone who is not sincere to use it? Right? So this sincerity to render service is the source of our empowerment. Sometimes in our humility we think, oh, I'm unqualified to do this, I'm unqualified to do that. That is nonsense. Yes, we are unqualified without the mercy of the Lord. But if we have sincere desire and put forth effort, then Krishna's mercy will come. Krishna's name will come. So very important. As soon as one is favored by the mercy of the spiritual master and the Lord, one is immediately given all power necessary to write books and propagate Krishna consciousness without being hampered by material considerations. Now here Srila Prabhupada is saying, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, all resources are given. Prabhupada had extraordinary impediments materially. He had no money, he had advanced age, he had a language barrier, he had no initial following, all kinds of material impediments. He had no email, no Facebook, no Zoom calls, so many limits. But he was sincerely eager to follow the order of his guru, and thus he was able to propagate this movement. So we can see certainly Srila Prabhupada was inspired directly by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Rupa Goswami was. So very, very important that one doesn't take credit for the work. One knows where it is coming from. The source of power, the source of ability is from Guru and Krishna. And if one is sincere, they can then harness that power and do amazing things for propagating the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but takes none of the credit. Our role is to be sincere, to be very sincere, and thus it can happen. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to instruct and begin to discuss with Rupa Goswami the various aspects of devotional service. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "My dear Rupa, please listen. It is not possible to describe devotional service completely. Therefore, I'm just trying to give you a synopsis of the symptoms of devotional service. The ocean of transcendental mellows of devotional service is so big that no one can estimate its length and breadth. However, just to help you taste it, I am describing but one drop. 10 days. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to describe, and he's saying, one drop. It's impossible to get to the breadth of the mellows of devotional service. It is never ending. So this is a vast, vast topic. So after establishing that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins to explain the great rarity of coming in contact with the Guru and the process of devotional service. As I mentioned in the opening, sometimes with familiarity, we begin to lose our appreciation for the value of what we have. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes through an elaborate discussion. In this universe, there are 8.4 million species of life. Of course, Rupa Goswami already knows that. We all know that. Why is he speaking, like that? And he's going and describing all these different topics. Why? He's reminding Rupa Goswami, there are innumerable living entities in the universe. We say the population of the United States is 330 million. Is that the population? That's just the humans. How many living entities are in the United States? Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions. We cannot quantify them. On one small parcel of land, how many blades of grass, how many different insects are living below the ground, above the ground. It's unlimited. Not just in the humans. They're unlimited. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, of all the living entities, the humans are the only ones who can practice spirituality. And of the humans, amongst unlimited number of humans, not just in this planet Earth, but in all the universes, which are unlimited in number, maybe some will follow Shastra. Some will follow the Vedic Shastras. But of those limited who follow the Shastra, the vast majority then, he says, follow Shastra for some material desires. They follow for some fruitive gains. But of all of those, one might be wise and come to the platform of understanding spirit and matter. And of all those who are wise, millions, he says, one may come to the platform of mukti, liberation. And of all the millions who come to that platform of liberation, maybe one will come to the platform of pure devotional service. So, in verses 147, 148, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is establishing the extraordinary rare. He says, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna is very difficult to find. This is very, very rare. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is establishing that this is not something to take lightly. We are so fortunate to have come in contact with Srila Prabhupada and to have some understanding of devotional service. Because it is extraordinarily rare. Out of all the trillions and trillions and trillions of unlimited living entities, only a handful, 11 on this call, and others around the world, maybe 1 million, 2 million, are practicing devotional service. So it's very, very rare. And we're very, very fortunate. So now we'll see, establishing the rarity of devotional service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then describes that this devotional service is the only means to become peaceful. Right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, because the devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruit of workers desire material enjoyment. Jnanis desire liberation. And yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that the free of to be desireless. So now Srila Prabhupada describes what desireless means. He says that the devotee of Krishna, Lord Krishna, has no desire other than serving Krishna. That's desireless. Only desires to serve Krishna. Meaning, no personal desires. To be desireless means no personal desires. The only desire is to please Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada quotes the peace formula verse from chapter 5, 29th verse Bhagavad Gita. Bhoktaram yajnatapasam sarva lokam maheshwaram surdam sarva bhutanam yaktanam shanti mrichati. Now in this context, this explanation of this verse has a higher meaning. What it means is that when one understands that Krishna is Bhoktaram yajnatapasam, he is the beneficiary of all activities. We think, I am the beneficiary of my work. I do my work, I should enjoy the fruits. But when one understands Bhoktaram yajnatapasam, Krishna is the beneficiary of all activities. One knows that, then no self-desires. Just work for Krishna. He is the ultimate beneficiary. But still there'll be some question. So he says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He's the source of everything. So meaning, he is the ultimate beneficiary. Okay, but still there may be one concern. If I'm only serving Krishna, then what is my concern? What about me? What happens if my only desire is to please Krishna? What about my own self-preservation? So Krishna then says in this verse, Surdam Sarva Bhutanam. He says, I am your ever well-wisher. So the devotee who knows this then has nothing to worry. Wait, Krishna is providing for me. I don't need to desire things for myself. Krishna will arrange it without me needing to desire. Simply my desire is to serve Krishna. He is my ever well-wisher. He is the ultimate beneficiary. So when one understands this principle, then they become desireless. Faith, Krishna will protect and provide. Faith, Krishna is the only enjoyer of my activities. If one becomes in this mood, then they're desireless. And Prabhupada explains, when you are desireless is the only means to be peaceful. As soon as there is some material desire, you'll be disrupted. And Prabhupada gives the example in this purport, a karmi wanting $1 million. When they get $1 million, are they happy? They want more, and more, and more. Even the jnani who wants impersonal liberation, when they achieve that, will not be happy because they not get what they want, and thus they'll fall back. So to be truly peaceful, one must come to the process of pure devotional service. Because everything else doesn't satisfy that desire. The desire is not quenched. And when the desire is not quenched, you are left in an unpeaceful state, frustrated, anxiety, upset. But Krishna consciousness is so satisfying, so pleasing, so complete, that it leaves nothing to be wanted. Everything is there. And thus one is peaceful. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was connecting that to be peaceful, one must be desireless. Desireless again means no personal desires. And that happens only in bhakti. In all other practices, there is some personal motive. The jnani wants impersonal liberation. The yogi, they want some mystic powers. The karmi, they want some fruits. There is a desire. But it is only in bhakti where there is no personal desire. And that is why it is the ultimately fulfilling activity. This only happens in devotional service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining. So it's very rare. It leads to this perfect peace and happiness. So now the obvious question is, how do I get it? Do I go to Amazon, click on Amazon Prime, pure devotional service, next day delivery, no shipping, no returns? Is that where we get it from? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now gives where to get this most precious, most valuable, and rarest of rare gifts. Anybody wants to know where we get it? Yes? Okay. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to tell us. In verse 151, one of the main verses. According to their karmas, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to upper planetary systems, and some of them going down into lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. This purport is quite long, but it's very, very nice, and we should read it over and over and over again. Again, this is worth verse 151. If you're taking notes, you can come back and read it in detail. We'll discuss a few aspects of it. But again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, out of many millions of wandering living entities, one is fortunate to come in contact with Guru, and by the contact of Guru, one acquires the mercy of Krishna, and thus the seed of bhakti. So, Guru Krishna Prasad. Only by the mercy of Guru does one get Krishna, and only by the mercy of Krishna does one get Guru. So powerful. And I'll read a couple of the lines that Srila Prabhupada says. This whole purport is very, very powerful. He says, I'll read a couple lines. There are millions and trillions of living entities everywhere, and they are engaged by Maya in suffering and enjoying the results of their fruitive activities, life after life. Doesn't that describe most of the world? This is the position of materially conditioned living entities. Out of many of these living entities, one who is actually fortunate, Bhagyavan, comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master by Krishna's mercy. So it's very rare to come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master. Now, how we come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master? Is it random? Is it by chance? Srila Prabhupada explains. Krishna is situated in everyone's heart. And if one desires something, Krishna fulfills one's desires. If the living entity by chance comes in contact with Krishna consciousness movement and wishes to associate with that movement, Krishna, who is situated in everyone's heart, gives him the chance to meet a bona fide spiritual master. So it is Krishna who arranges, knowing the desire of the living entity, the opportunity to come in contact. And Prabhupada says, this is called Guru Krishna Prasada. Krishna is prepared to bestow his mercy upon all living entities. And as soon as the living entity desires the Lord's mercy, the Lord immediately gives him an opportunity to meet a bona fide spiritual master. Such a fortunate person is fortified by both Krishna and the spiritual master. He is helped from within by Krishna and from without by the spiritual master. So both the Guru and Krishna strengthen the practice of devotional service. Prabhupada used the word fortify. Internally from Paramatma, externally from Guru. They combine. Both are prepared to help the sincere living being become free from material bondage. What is the goal of Guru and Krishna? To help us become free from material bondage. Krishna would prefer nothing more than all living entities become free from Maya. But it's based on our desire. So somehow we have all had some desire, and Krishna has brought Guru into our life. It is not by some random occurrence. It is by our own desire and the unlimited mercy of Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is establishing that it is the mercy of the Guru hearing the desire, the instruction from Krishna, who is responding to our desire. Who then does what? What is the result of meeting Guru? Let us see. Dormant devotional service to Krishna is within everyone. Simply by associating with devotees, hearing good instructions and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one awakens his dormant love for Krishna. In this way, one acquires the seed of devotional service. Guru Krishna Prasade Bhaya Bhakti Lata Bija. So this seed of devotional service, it comes from the spiritual master and Krishna. Both are instrumental in awakening this dormant love of Krishna. So he says, therefore, Prabhupada says, therefore by the grace of Krishna, one's life becomes successful when he comes in contact. So this is how one achieves this Bhakti Lata Bij. Now in the next verse, we see how to grow this seed. When you have a seed, you have to water it. What is the watering of our devotional service, Creeper? When a person receives the seed of devotional service, he should take care of it by becoming a gardener and sowing the seed in his heart. If he waters the seed gradually, by the process of Shravana and Kirtana, hearing and chanting, the seed will begin to sprout. So hearing and chanting, this is what waters the seed of bhakti. Now I'll read a couple more passages from the purport. Again, this is from verse 152. Please read this in detail later. The word Guru Prasada indicates that the spiritual master is very merciful in bestowing the boon of devotional service upon the disciple. That is the best possible gift the spiritual master has to offer. Those with a background of pious life are eligible to receive life's supreme benefit, and to bestow this benefit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead sends his representative to impart his mercy. Very powerful statement Srila Prabhupada is making. That this is the life's supreme benefit. There is no other benefit in the world than the mercy of Guru. And who makes it happen? The Supreme Personality of Godhead sends his representative to impart his mercy. The Guru is the agent of Krishna. When Krishna sees our desire, he brings. And the spiritual master, then Prabhupada continues, the spiritual master trains his disciples to render devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called Guru Kripa. It is Kripa, Krishna Prasad, Krishna's mercy, that he sends a bona fide spiritual master and a deserving disciple. By the mercy of Krishna, one meets the bona fide spiritual master, And by the mercy of the spiritual master, the disciple is fully trained in devotional service of the Lord. So this is the Bhakti Lata, the training, what to hear, what to chant, how to perform, how to sprout this seed of bhakti is trained by the Guru. Prabhupada says that every activity, there's a seed that instigates the activity. For any idea or program or any device, there is a seed idea that is planted. That's the original thought. Oh, let us make a powered horse carriage. And thus the car was invented. It would be nice to fly. And thus the airplane came. So there is a seed in every action. So Prabhupada is saying, the seed of bhakti, the bhakti lata bij, again, is received from the spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. Other seeds are not so helpful. So if one is not fortunate to receive the bhakti lata bij, then they cultivate other desires. So again, he goes on to explain the great mercy. And then Prabhupada continues commenting. I could read every line of this purport. I'm just trying to summarize in time. This Bhakti Lata Bij is the origin of devotional service. And then he says, unless one satisfies the spiritual master, he gets the bija, or root cause, of karma, jnana, yoga without the benefit of devotional service. But one who is faithful to his spiritual master gets the Bhakti Lata Bij. This Bhakti Lata Bij is received when one is initiated by the bona fide spiritual master. After receiving the spiritual master's mercy, one may repeat his instructions. This is called Shravana Kirtana, hearing and chanting. And so, this one who is faithful to the Guru gets this Bhakti Lata Bij. And so what happens to this Bhakti Lata Bij now? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains in the coming verses. I'll just summarize briefly to conclude. That he says that this bija is like a vine, a creeper. It grows. And it grows. And if you keep watering it with good hearing and good chanting, but while you are watering it with hearing and chanting, you be very careful to avoid offenses. When we do Vaishnava aparadha, or any kind of aparadha, we destroy our vine. The bhakti, a vine, even 100-year-old vine is very delicate. With one snip, it's gone. A tree, when it grows, it becomes very strong. So this bhakti is called, it's compared to a creeper, not a tree. To indicate it's fragile, even mature. If you're not careful, it can be damaged. So an elephant can damage a creeper in a millisecond. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Hatima. So while you're watering, be careful not to create offenses. And to protect your vine, you should put a fence around it. This is the gardening season, so we put a fence around our garden. So things don't come and eat it, rabbits, or people don't step on it, or whatever. So we put a fence around it. So what fence should we put around our bhakti? Good association, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Good association. So we should maintain great association. Because in association, we'll be careful not to be deviated from the path. When Guru gives instructions, there'll be temptations not to follow them. But in good association, we'll remain strong and overcome those allurements. So we may feel incapable, but in good association, the strength of good association, we become very capable. So this creeper, it continues to grow. Now in a garden, you also have to remove weeds. Because if you don't remove the weeds take the nutrients of the soil. So the weeds will take the watering, the shravanam and kirtanam, if we don't remove them. And the weeds are our anarthas, the unwanted things in our heart. So by removing the unwanted things, by putting a fence around our Bhakti Lata Beach to good association, avoiding offenses, and good Shravanam and Kirtanam. This Bhakti Lata Beach will grow and grow. It will grow so high, it will pierce the material universe sky. It will break through the covering of the material universe. It will cross the Viraja River. It will enter into the spiritual realm. It will cross many, many Vaikuntha planets. And it will end at the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. And when that Bhakti Lata Beach reaches the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, one fruit comes. And what is that fruit? Krishna Prema. Love of God. That is the fruit of our devotional service. That is the ultimate fruit of devotional service. So in 163 we get this. There the devotee serves the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to a wish-fulfilling tree. With great bliss he tastes the juice of the fruit of love and becomes eternally happy. Now in 164 we see the ultimate achievement. To taste the fruit of devotional service in Goloka Vrindavan is the highest perfection of life. And in the presence of such perfection, the four material perfections, religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are very insignificant achievements. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is saying that pure devotional service in Goloka Vrindavan is the highest perfection of life. So if we obtain this Bhakti Lata Beach, we follow the instructions of Shravanam Kirtanam by the order of the spiritual master and protect it, it will lead and end in the highest perfection of life. And we see throughout this, we're speaking about awakening the dormant pure love of Krishna. Because the loving of Krishna, pure love of Krishna, to be truly desireless, that is actually our true nature. That is who we really are. But it is through our material contamination that we have become illusion to think I, me, and mine. But actually our blissful, pure state is one of unmotivated devotional service to Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in just a couple verses prior to what I just read, that this hearing and chanting, it is the eternal activity. It continues on even in the spiritual world. In one's mature state of devotional service, one continues to hear and chant because it is the source of all pleasure and the source of enthusing and increasing one's love for Krishna. So this pure devotional service, it is the perfection of life. And that bij, that seed from where it starts, comes by the mercy of Krishna. Hearing our prayers, he then brings his representative, the Guru, into our life, even without us even trying, and installs that Bhakti Lata Bij in our heart. It's the only way, he says, to obtain the Bhakti Lata Bij, by the mercy of the spiritual master. And thus it grows, and one achieves his highest perfection of pure devotional service. So now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to describe pure devotional service in detail. He's going to describe the symptoms of pure devotional service. So we'll understand what is pure devotional service. And so that's what's coming up in the next verses, which hopefully, Krishna willing, we'll discuss next week. So I'm very sorry for going a little bit long today, but very wonderful verses, very deep purports here in this section. Hopefully everyone has time and some desire to read these purports a few times over the coming couple of weeks. Anybody has such a desire? No? Okay, few of us. So pray that we all can have that desire fulfilled and understand this process more clearly. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Nitya Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Any comments, reflections, corrections, questions?
Thank you for a very nice and detailed explanation. So, Prabhuji, you mentioned that Prabhupada has written 70 plus books. So, what are those subject lines like? Is it like some specific to, or we can say conclusion of all Vedas or something like that?
Yeah, so first of all, he translated many books. So when I say he wrote, like Chaitanya Caritamrita, right? That is a Shastra that was in Bengali, that he translated into English, and then he wrote purports. But the purports he also wrote are based on commentary from the prior acharyas. So he's not originally authoring Chaitanya Caritamrita. Chaitanya Caritamrita is a Shastra written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. But he presented it to us in English. Bhagavad Gita, that was spoken by Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada translated it into English and then again presented the purports based on the commentaries of the prior acharyas. Srimad Bhagavatam, same thing. That is an eternal Shastra that was translated into English and then purports presented. So like that, he presented Nectar of Devotion, that is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami's, one of his principal books, the law book of devotional service. He presented Sri Upadeshamrita as Nectar of Instruction. So many of these books, Srila Prabhupada is presented in English so that we can access them. He also wrote some of his own books. We call them, some of the, particularly call them the small books, Journey to Other Planets, Chant and Be Happy, and some of these other books he wrote. Some of them were conversations, some of them were lectures, and some of them were actual like articles he wrote. But these scriptures, we say he's translating them. So we often say he translated over 60 or 70 volumes of books. Sometimes colloquially we'll say he wrote them. So he's not authoring original content in terms of these shastras. This is all presented when he's bringing it in an English language, along with the commentaries pulling from the purports from other acharyas, prior acharyas.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Anyway.
Yes. Prabhuji, and you mentioned that when the bhakti letter reads, it glows and glows and glows, and then it attains the fate of Krishna. So, I was wondering, human nature is something like, when we get something, right, maybe spiritually or virtually, materially, so person always thinks about next, something like that. So, how that nature basically will get stabilized?
Yes.
That when that bhakti letter bridge is that basically flowing. So I know that it's it refers to the freedom. Krishna, but still, but what next after that?
It's a perfect question, because this is why the material activities never satisfy. Because you only think about what's next when you're not completely satisfied with what you have. If you only desire something if you don't have something that you want. If you have everything, you have no desire. Right? I desire $1 million because I don't have $1 million. I desire a rasgulla because I don't have a rasgulla. So when the desire is fully fulfilled, then there's no what's next, because you're fully satiated. So materially, there's nothing that will not lead to what's next. So it's not human nature that leads us to what next. What next is a function of material world. Because everything materially will not satisfy. There is some semblance of incompleteness. But when you connect with Krishna, because Krishna is complete, Om Purnamadaha Purnam Purna Purnasya Uchite, Purname Vasya you got it. Because he is complete. Your experience, your happiness is also complete. Because there's nothing missing in the reciprocation. So once one experiences pure devotional service, there's such an overwhelming satiation, satisfaction, that one just continues to be in devotional service. That's why they say it's the highest perfection. But to say highest, it means there's nothing beyond. We have so many so-called highest perfection. If I had world fame, I'd be the best. If I had world power, I'd be the best. But these are all relative to what I have today. But an absolute platform, when one experiences pure devotional service, there's no what's next. It's so satisfying. And the happiness one has today will increase tomorrow. And the happiness tomorrow will increase more than the next day. It always increases. So you're fully satisfied today, and you're even more satisfied tomorrow. The problem with material activities, even if I have a good amount of satisfaction today with whatever item it is, I know tomorrow I'll have a little bit less. And eventually that satisfaction will dissipate. But in spiritual life, it never dissipates. Because that's our eternal nature, our true nature. So as soon as you go opposed to our real nature, you'll find this what's next, what's next, what's next. And as soon as one comes to the practice of devotional service, and pure devotional service, one finds unending bliss. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in the beginning, I cannot describe but a drop of bhakti. This bhakti has no beginning or end. I can't quantify. An ocean I can't even quantify. But the ocean of bhakti you cannot even quantify. There's no end to it. If there's no end to it, there's nothing that one could not become satisfied. By definition. Because it's limitless. So that's the feeling. So then it's not the human nature that's what's next. It's the material nature that leads to that. So as soon as we in our human form transcend to the spiritual life, that goes away completely.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks for the clarification. Because I was thinking that it's a nature basically, which pervades for the upcoming stuff, but you clarified that that's basically the object which we are designed for. Thank you so much.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Madan.
Hare Krishna.
Mad-
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Tanusram, very beautiful lecture, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. It was really amazing. I had a quick question. We talked about the Bhakti-Lata beach today. So now, and we get it by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. My question is, so Bhakti-Lata beach is called only by the ones who get shelter of the spiritual master. What about the ones who may not have taken, who just got taken to the chanting process, but may not be taking the shelter of the spiritual master? So what does that mean? I thought Bhakti-Lata beach is the time when they start chanting. That is where I'm wrong in my understanding.
So the process to awaken, so let's remember that the mood of pure bhakti is lying dormant within our heart. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to explain that in some verses coming up. But to awaken that dormant love, it requires the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So one can begin the process. One can begin the process of practicing devotional service. And one can begin to understand the science of devotional service, how it works, and begin to practice. But ultimately, one must receive the direct mercy of Guru in order to then fructify and achieve the ultimate platform of Krishna Prema. So to keep progressing, one must, when we say that one who chants Hare Krishna is a Vaishnava, I think you're maybe referring to that. So one who has just chanted or one who's even heard. And if you read the commentary to that, it's because by hearing once, they have started the process that will ultimately culminate in perfection. So for that process to come to perfection, one must surrender to a spiritual. And that's why Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in this, he gives 64 processes of bhakti. What are the first 5 related to? Guru. The first 5 all relate to take shelter of a guru, inquire from a guru, render service to guru, take initiation from guru. This all relate. Then the processes of how to apply can manifest. So this is a step in the completion of the process, but one can initiate the process. And remember, we are all under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. So he is our Param Guru, who is guiding us in the process. But now, if we really want to take full advantage, then as Srila Prabhupada wrote in the purports very nicely in these verses, Guru is inspiring from Krishna is inspiring from within, and Guru is inspiring externally, and the two combine to perfect the process of devotional service. So that's what. So yes, ultimately to come to this platform, one must accept a spiritual master. It is required. But one can start anyways.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, we have a question online.
Yeah, Madan Gaur Prabhu is asking, Hare Krishna Prabhu, for entering into devotional service, do we need to be in mode of goodness combined with intelligence, having strong desire to please Krishna? Then mine will follow in due course, Prabhu?
So, the mode of goodness is a platform from which then one can transcend to bhakti. But the mode of goodness itself is a material platform. So we liken it, Prabhupada gave the example that the mode of goodness is like a runway. When the plane enters the runway, from there it can take off. But if the plane doesn't take off, there's no point to come to the runway. So the mode of goodness is a platform from which one can transcend to Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. Bhakti starts in pure goodness. So we come to the mode of goodness so that we can then ultimately take to the process of bhakti. But bhakti is not in the mode of goodness, Rajoguna, Sattva Guna. It is in the mode of Suddha Sattva, pure goodness. So because it is pure devotional service. Okay? One more question, okay?
Yeah, so...
I have a follow-up question for that.
Yes.
As you mentioned that the mode of goodness is different from bhakti, like it's the fundamental basic thing, like the foundation stone, as I understood. So how will we differentiate whether we are in the mode of goodness or are we successfully trying to transcend or progress in bhakti?
Yeah, so Krishna will explain the mode of goodness in Bhagavad Gita. But the mode of goodness still has a material goal. I do good things, I do pious things, I don't break the laws, so that I can be free of the karmic reactions for my activities, and I pursue good activities so I can have longer life, healthier life, these sorts of things. But the goal is not Krishna. As soon as the goal becomes Krishna, it transcends into bhakti. So as soon as my goal is to serve Krishna, no longer at a material platform. So to the extent my activity has the intent to please Krishna, it isn't bhakti. If the activity is the intent to please me, it is in some lower realm. So it's a very nice kind of delineation or distinction.
Yeah, because I think that's why I said there is a very thin line. So we should be very clear on what should be the exact definition for both.
Yeah, so like I give the example of, the philanthropist who wants to feed the poor. When is that bhakti and when is that a material goodness, mode of goodness activity? Well, if I'm feeding prasad to the poor, now I'm connecting them to Krishna. It is bhakti. If I'm feeding them regular foodstuffs, it's pious activity. But the motive is not Krishna, so it's pious. So it's mode of goodness. It's very black and white. On the external surface, they may look very similar, right? So many people will say, "Oh, I'm doing good karma, so I'm in bhakti." That's not. Good karma will also keep you here, maybe in a better situation, but it'll keep you here. Right? So, if the goal is to please Krishna, then it's bhakti. So I can say it's not even a fine line; it's a clear line. But it gets confused unless we understand that distinction, because the action itself doesn't always delineate whether it is bhakti or not, or goodness. It's the intent of that action. What is the intent of that activity? That is going to determine. If my intent is favorable, anukuliyena, in pleasing Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yes, we have one more online.
Yeah, so Hare Krishna Prabhu, for protecting our devotion, chanting of Maha Mantra, reading Srila Prabhupada books, association with Vaishnavas, then prasadam. Is the order recommended? Like, is that order recommended?
We don't want to put order in these things. Of course, chanting is the most important and most powerful means of our devotional service, and we protect that with great care. But our chanting becomes enthused, inspired by association. That's why we have this wonderful Devasadan morning chanting call. Why it's there? To give association, to inspire each other in chanting. So, which is more important? Well, and one fuels the other. Reading Srila Prabhupada's books is very important. But if really reading Srila Prabhupada's books doesn't bring one to chanting, then we can say we haven't understood the importance of reading. Because reading is meant to inspire and awaken our understanding of the importance of chanting. Honoring prasadam is meant to purify the senses, so that we no longer be attracted to other mundane things and will be attracted to chanting. So they're all interrelated, but the core center is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu keeps going around and around saying, just chant, just chant, just chant. But these other activities are meant to enthuse, to inspire, to improve the quality of our chanting. So they're important. I can't say they're less important, because without them, then maybe our chanting won't be. If I go try to chant, Prabhupada said, you try to go chant in the forest, following, imitating Haridas Thakur, all you'll do is draw cheap adoration. He said there are already enough monkeys in the forest. They don't need one more. So no, stay in the temple, associate, and stay disciplined in our chanting. Okay? So that's how we can understand it. Okay? Anything else? Okay, well, thank you very much. Again, sorry for going long, but a very deep section of Chaitanya Caritamrita we're entering in. So please try to read these a few times. So much nectar is there. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Hare
Jai.
Krishna. Dhanyavad.